Hi, everyone. It's International Women's Month. I just want to start with saying women power. We're going to be talking about innovation and women's entrepreneurship and what it takes to be successful. And I'm so excited to be here with a founder that I so admire. You're going to get to hear brilliant wisdom and honest information about the journey from Rachel. So we'll have Rachel talk in just a second. But I just wanted to kind of give you a frame of what we're talking about. Your wealth is on the line, and you need to be thinking about where are you investing right now today. As I'm doing this conversation with Rachel, the stock market's, very turbulent. Having a diverse portfolio is super important. And women have historically sort of handed over the reins to somebody else. And I want to do a call to you to really step up and think about where are you investing in? Is it aligned with your values? There are things that are going on in the country right now that are not aligned with my values. So investing in a company and a founder like Rachel's is absolutely aligned with what I want to see in the world. She is solving big problems. Historically, we have not had a lot of women who are investors in venture. And as a result, only 2% of all venture funding goes to companies that are founded by women. It doesn't make any sense today, though, because women have 52% of the wealth, and there's about $30 trillion that's going to be transferred over the next 5 years. So by 2030, there's an estimate that women will actually have 60% of the wealth. If you are unhappy with anything going on in the world, with who's leading the biggest companies and their behavior and the cultures they set, and us having to beg for equal pay, get in the game and start investing. And in fact, when you invest in a company founded by a woman, and if you invest in a venture fund run by women who can see and invest in those women founders, you will make more money based on the data, up to 34% more. So this is just a really important thing for you to understand. The other thing is, in addition to seeing the leadership and the cultures inside those companies, we also desperately need value-based, high-integrity innovation with things that matter for women and the things that are important to women and families. So, okay, there we go. That's my preachy moment for all of you. Get in the game. And I know while you're on this, if you're listening to this today, you're already thinking about it. So maybe as a takeaway from today, one thing you can also do is tap 5 women on the shoulder so that they really can. Sometimes it takes a minute for you to hear the message a couple times, but your friends will benefit from you making sure they know about investing in venture and investing in companies founded by women. My name is Julie Castro Abrams, and I'm the CEO of How Women Lead, which is a nonprofit organization. We have 25,000 women, and we all individually and collectively break ceilings, develop women's power, wealth, and influence. We started a venture firm in 2020, and we actually have 3 funds that we're investing. We're investing from 2 still. The first one is fully deployed. And we partnered with the NASDAQ Foundation because we are together aligned and wanting to educate you about investing in general. How do you invest today so you have the wealth tomorrow? But how do you also make sure that investment aligns with your values? NASDAQ Foundation is really doing a beautiful job of making sure that they have content for you. And you can also see from a lot of their policies and practices, they also are really important assets in the market for us. So we've got LinkedIn Lives and podcast episodes, articles, blog posts, things that you can find on that NASDAQ Foundation partner website. So I am joined today by the founder and CEO of AGED Diagnostics. She is brilliant. This geneticist is trained with she's master's in biotechnology and business. Her career started in cancer research at MIT. Sorry, you were low bar there, where she developed gene silencing therapeutics using the RNA interference pathway. Under her leadership, AGED Diagnostics is pioneering the development of the most accurate blood test for liver disease, period, aiming to revolutionize early detection and improve patient outcomes. And for me, when I first met Rachel, I was like, wow, there are so many people I know who've been diagnosed with fatty liver disease, not because they drink alcohol or do other things that are lifestyle things that could be impacting their liver. And they've had to have biopsies, which is so invasive and problematic in the system. We can actually prevent that discomfort, pain, cost, etc., when Rachel in AGED Diagnostics wins the science game. So Rachel, you're such a unbelievably wonderful leader. And we are both aligned in what we believe in terms of culture and how women should be with each other. And we have a credo that I think you're going to share with everybody. Would you share our credo with folks?
I would love that. Thank you, Julie. Happy to be here. First and foremost, be fierce advocates for one another. We need to be in each other's corners, advocating and showing up. Say yes to connecting with others. If a woman asks for an introduction, be the first one to step up and say, yes, who else can I introduce you to? What are your biggest challenges? How can we solve them? Reinforce her voice. When she speaks up and isn't heard, be her megaphone, be that village behind her. Last, but certainly not least, be unapologetically visible and present in this pursuit. All the above and many more, and we will reinforce.
Thank you very much for being visible today, Rachel. I know for a lot of us, especially, people who've really had their heads down doing science, there's maybe some discomfort with stepping out and taking up space and being visible. And I want to tell you, you are elevating everybody else's sights by being on this LinkedIn Live today. You're giving people a touch point to understand what a founder thinks about and looks like, and they can really relate to you and think maybe I could do that too. So it's a gift that you're creating a ripple effect for other people. I want to talk to you about both your founder journey and experience, but I also want to talk about the vision and the opportunity with what you're creating. Would you actually first start off by saying what is AGED Diagnostics? I probably did a mediocre job at best of explaining what it is, but it would be great for you to share with everybody.
To reinforce that further, so we are developing a blood test for type of liver disease called fatty liver disease, NASH or MASH. It is associated with diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome. It impacts 1 in 3 Americans, and most don't know until it's no longer treatable nor reversible. Conversely, if you catch this early, it is fully reversible up until a certain stage. So we're looking to change that narrative for patients in the United States and globally through a simple, accurate blood test using some of the most innovative genomic sequencing technologies brought to you and your families.
And when is it going to be in the market in your projection? I know these are very time consuming things to get to market and make sure that we can all access it.
We're looking at market launch within the next 24 months. So at some point in early 2027.
Listen to that. Listen to that, everybody, in just 2 years. Very exciting. All right, let's talk. There's been it's never easy for women to raise capital. But in the last 2 years, it was hard for everybody. The market crash had all kinds of implications for liquidity, and venture funds didn't have cash, actually, and neither did their LPs that were investing in them. What did you experience, and what did you do to get over it?
Oh, the last 2 years has been challenging. And I think that with grit and perseverance, you can figure out how to address those challenges effectively. So we realized that we had submitted maybe 100 to 150 applications, maybe over a 6-month time span in early 2023. We weren't getting a lot of traction from that avenue.
Yeah.
So as a team, we came together and we were a small team at that point with limited resources. And we said, why don't we compile a list of top 500 angel networks and micro VCs in the United States? And we will aggressively pursue this list time after time. So I think over the course of 2023, I think we applied to, on average, 12 pitch competitions a month. We reached out to about 100 either VCs or angel networks through Gust and Dealum, and we compiled a list of who we reached out to and when. And then we would go to as many different in-person events as possible, because until people see you and know you, you are a list, and that really doesn't push the needle. So when you continuously show up, that's how we got to that next stage of development. And if you get denied from any of those applications, ask why. If they provide feedback, gold, you take that and you incorporate it. And if they don't, you just apply again. It is that simple. You don't take no for an answer.
Did you have to do anything unique in attracting them once you got their attention?
Yes, there is a formula here.
Okay.
And with every business, it is unique as a fingerprint, but there is a formula for success. You need to have clear and effective communication from your narrative to your market opportunity to your plans to your execution. So, all of that needs to be in alignment, and you need to have the fullest level of confidence in the founder as well as the team around them. So, all of those things coming together and ensuring that at every opportunity that we go through a pitch competition or a pitch application, that we incorporate that feedback to make sure it's in our strategy and in our communication.
I have to tell you, by the time we met you, you were so good. I mean, I'm sorry you had to go through so much, but by the time we met you, we could see. So, in a venture fund like ours, I need to be able to, this is other people's money. I'm a steward of other people's resources. I needed to believe we could see at least a 10 times return from our investment in age diagnostic in 5 to 7 years. And so you were able to pull that out very clearly from the first time we met you. What I see from a lot of people is they hang out with the story of my grandmother had fatty liver disease, and this is all the things that happened too long. And it's the stories are great, but you got to answer the questions a VC's looking for. And you did a great job with that. The other thing is you are a highly technical founder, which is really valuable. Can you talk a little bit about people's reaction to you as a geneticist and as for who you are in the world and what was your experience as that kind of a founder?
Yes. So, what is really, really important is being able to understand all aspects of the business because it's not all about the science and it's not all
Right.
about business development at any
Yeah.
given time.
Yeah.
It's a synthesis between these really two distinct and diverse entities that must come together and be in alignment with one another to be able to move forward. So, what I think was really important with my background and being a technical founder was that, to be completely honest, it actually really humbled me when I moved into the business world to understand, like, how do we go about this from a really methodical way? So I took that background and I said, well, how do we apply the scientific method to the business model to validate product market fit? And things of that sort, where it's data we're generating, and we have a really clear crystal path of what our hypotheses, how are we testing these hypotheses from a business standpoint
Yeah.
to then generate
Mhm.
attraction. So I think that culmination was
Yeah.
really important in being able to have an open line of communication with the research and development team, the business development, to then communicate that to investors, board members, and all other key stakeholders as well.
Let's be clear, you picked the kind of company that is harder for investors to invest in. As an investor, because I have this short timeline in a highly, you got to get regulatory approval, you got to go through trials, you got to do a whole bunch of things to get to a point where you can commercialize, right? And so, did you pick a time when you're like, okay, this is the moment when I can go to certain types of investors because I've already hit a milestone? Like, how did you navigate that planning in that moment in time.
Great question. So initially, I think one of the most challenging things, and especially from those highly technical companies,
Yeah.
is how do you generate data without
Right.
capital? And then how do you generate capital without data?
I know, it's a catch-22.
It really is. So
Yeah,
what we did from a very early standpoint is we actually leveraged open source data sets, and we
great.
actually compiled a list of 875 open source data sets from
Mhm,
around the globe, from the European
mhm.
Bioinformatics Institute, from NIH, and we showed that there was efficacy of our tools based off of this open source data set. And then we shop that around with various angel investors. We started with a very small round, and I said, we need just 125,000 to show that this is
Yeah,
efficacious in peripheral blood.
yeah.
Then what we did, and you have to be scrappy, but very intentional, is we reached out to maybe 20 different physicians to see if they could send us well characterized patient samples to show efficacy of our tools. And they did. They said, we want some equity. We would like to be an advisor and find those people who are your champions because that's what's going to move you to the next inflection point.
Yeah.
And after that point, that's when we said, okay, we're going to now raise our seed round after that small data generation, where we could then move into a multiple site 500 patient clinical trial, which is where we are today now.
Yeah. Congratulations. I know you were just visiting sites last week. So, you used open source information from the NIH. Are you paying enough attention to what's happening with that data with everything that's going on at a federal level right now? It seems like things are probably the next AGED Diagnostics in the market is going to have a harder time. Yeah.
I definitely think so. I think it's shameful what's happening to a lot of these data sets and the slashing of
Competitive
federal
advantage
funds.
in the
Yeah.
country, right? In every way, right? This is extremely bad for innovation, for our competitive edge.
It's gonna hurt small companies, which is gonna hurt everybody in the long term because this is where innovation starts. It
Yes.
needs to start with these grants, and it needs to start with the opportunity to take non-dilutive capital and then push the needle forward. So,
Yeah.
I was gonna say we might not see the impact today, but in 3, 5, 15 years from now,
Oh,
there
yeah.
might be a lag.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it looks like the Supreme Court and Congress are starting to step up. We'll see. But unbelievable in such a short amount of time how much destruction has happened. I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making a commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step? I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. So have you had to pivot at all with your company?
Yeah.
You're like, are you
So,
kidding?
multiple times. So I started this
Very usual, by the way. Everybody does. So yeah, yeah.
if you're not pivoting, you're not listening to your customers, and nobody is right out of the gate, and
Or
that
what's right today is not what's right in 6 months.
precisely. So very early on, we got a grant actually from the National Science Foundation to go out and conduct customer discovery to validate product market fit. So we actually started this company as a diagnostic tool for liver cancer. We knew that liver cancer was on the rise. So we went on with developing a tool for liver cancer. Then we got a grant and we spoke to several hundred physicians. And we realized that while liver cancer is a problem, we actually needed to start earlier in the patient journey before they even got liver cancer because the efficacy of the therapeutics right now really can't make a difference in patient lives. So we needed to start earlier when they still had liver disease. It was a hard discussion to have with my team, my investors, and my board at the time to say, here's why I was incorrect. And here's the data to indicate why I was incorrect. And the number of physicians, stakeholders, and payers that said, here's where you should be focusing on. So we took a break for 6 months from liver cancer and we said, let's see if our tools work for NASH and fatty liver disease. And they did. And we haven't looked back since.
Yeah. So early on in my career, I was looking for a leadership assessment I could do with when I was going to hire people. And they said that the number one thing that you want to look for is somebody who will make a decision based on limited data. But when they get additional data, they will change their mind or say they were incorrect and evolve. You just gave the perfect example of someone where it's like, oh my God, I was not right. This is how we need to go. And literally the emotional challenge and the cost in every way to say, we're going to take 6 months and reset. That is huge, Rachel. I mean, what a beautiful example for everyone listening, and really just an example of what a great leader you are. So well done. And not easy, but leadership is not easy. So well done. Biomarker discovery and the development, it takes a lot of capital, right? So how did you generate maybe you already answered this question, but you talked about using the NIH, et cetera, for early data before securing major funding. Are there who advised you to do that? Is there anybody else or anything else that you did to build that out early on?
So, in addition to customer discovery, when we were really going out there with our boots on the ground, talking to people face to face, I was talking to various researchers and professors as well. And I said, how do you generate data? Like who do you go to when you want to ask a or test a small hypothesis, but you don't have the capital to do so? So a team of different professors pointed me in that direction to those open source data sets. After that point, when we had a little bit of the data and we did some studies with that, I then shopped that data around with some of the key opinion leaders in the hepatology space. And it took some time to find who is who and who would be a good strategic and culture fit to work with us. We would go to these conferences, we would sit in the front row, we would take the names of who was speaking and then try to and try to find them out.
Line up, talk to them afterwards. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
And I think I asked maybe 20 or 25 different hepatologists if they could just take a 20-minute meeting with me where I could show them our data. And if they were interested, they could provide samples. And I was very transparent. I said, the purpose of this call is to see if you're interested in working with us to provide us free samples. I did not beat around the bush. I was very direct. I was like, here's what we need. If you're in, great. If you're not in, thank you anyways. I'll reach out to you in a year. And we found a team of hepatologists that said, we will send you free samples. We want publishing rights. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get them to say yes? Was it you making a clear request, you building a relationship, being kind, sending them flowers? Like, what is it? Or were they just invested in the solution? What made them say yes? Because I think a lot of people are scared to ask people for help in part because it's like, well, what's in it for them?
I think I was painting them a vision of what we could do together from a tech and innovation standpoint. I said, here's where we are today. Here's where we want to be in 6 or 12 months. If you come in with samples, we can build this together and we can do this more efficiently with your insight and guidance. So it was really based off of a couple things. Good data is always nice to have, but I don't think that that was the biggest selling point. I think it was on clear communication and expectations that were alignment with their core values as well. So I
Yeah.
tried to identify who's who and
Fantastic. So instructive, I think for all of us. Sometimes you're just like, I've got those 100 calls I have to do this month. But if you actually can give yourself just a minute to say, what do they care most about? And how do I inspire them based on what's important to them? I think you just gave a beautiful picture of that. I'm sure you've seen the data that women founders consistently outperform. And the data says it's because they're capital efficient and performance driven. Rachel, are you seeing enough of yourself compared to other people in the similar spaces that you've actually have perspective on why the outperformance? Do you think that is what you practice is more capital efficiency because you don't raise as much? I think generally is what the belief is.
I think it's a combination of things.
Mhm.
Women, from my perspective and speculation, have a better open line of communication, have a different level of empathy.
Yeah.
And I think when you're really talking to your team members, it's not us against the world, it's us against ourselves. And that open line of communication with one another is really what drives success. So with our yearly goals, with our KPIs, with our quarterly goals and our monthly goals, we're holding each other accountable. So I see, at least for my company, that that open line of communication
Yeah.
and accountability and honesty is what is driving us to be both capital efficient and strategic in meeting these milestones and identifying why we did or did not for each quarter.
Because it's harder for women to raise money, what do you think needs to change literally in the investment world and the ecosystem for it to be better? Now that you're an insider.
I think the first thing that needs to change, first and foremost, is that we need to stop thinking about investing in women as charity. It is
Yeah.
not charity. We are outperforming and
Yes.
we are doing things differently. And those return on investments are not something small. So
Yes.
that narrative needs to change where women led companies are actually outperforming a lot of male led companies one to one. So I
Yeah.
think that part of the narrative needs to be reconstructed.
Is everybody listening? This is a wealth building strategy, an investment strategy that will outperform. Literally, and tell everybody that you know. Send them this very last bit of our conversation today. And God, you're an inspiration. I love talking to you. Do you have a bold piece of advice that you can give to other women founders that are watching this and trying to raise capital and scale their businesses?
Yes. First and foremost, be unapologetically you, be loud, be present in the room, you belong in the room. And I learned this later in this journey, and it's probably one of the most important things that I have learned so far is for every single person you're working with, whether it's team members, investors, collaborators, anyone, you are vetting them to the same extent that they are vetting you. And when you come with that attitude, people know it and they identify it, and you will attract the right people with that mindset. So vet them to the same extent.
Is there anything that you do to keep yourself refreshed and sustain your leadership?
Refreshed and sustained. I think
Maybe you don't know yet. I mean, you're young enough that you might just be white knuckling it. That's okay too.
no,
Someday when you're my age, you're going to have to figure out how you can survive through it all.
I think a few core aspects are true through and through. Glorifying the work hustle is
Yeah.
not sustainable for the marathon of entrepreneurship.
Mm,
You need to establish good boundaries
right.
in many capacities. So, good sleep habits. I meditate a lot. I'm an avid swimmer and runner, so I unplug when I can. And I do that periodically because in order for me to show up and be the best version of myself for my team and all of our stakeholders, I need to take rest routinely.
Yeah.
So, all the
Well, if you're
above.
to inspire others in your communication, like today, you are crisp and bright. And every time I'm with you, I don't ever see you looking sort of like wrung out and exhausted, which is not the case with all the founders that I know and work with. And it inspires confidence. It actually draws people in towards you when you're not building up fatty liver disease yourself because you're eating junk food and exhausted and all those things. Is there anything else you want to share, Rachel? Because we're just about at time. Anything else people need to know about you, your journey, or a request for people in the world?
Yes, our request, be present, be persistent, listen, and synthesize. All the above.
Lovely. I think you're the only person who says synthesize. I think that's it's science language, I think maybe. Thank you everyone for coming today. What a moment of clarity for all of us in International Women's History Month at this moment in time in 2025. You, all the women listening here, our power and wealth and influence are greater than we've ever had before. Women are 45% of heterosexual households' primary breadwinners. That means we're the ones that are carrying the financial health of our families in 45% of heterosexual households. We must gather together and be bold and courageous and create the world we want to see. We cannot wait for someone else to do it for us. And we have proven over and over again that when we do it together and we live a credo, like Rachel shared with us earlier, that we can make the change that we want to see in the world. You're invited to be part of how we lead and how we invest. We'd love to have you as part of our journey. If you're a founder, apply. We have capital. We want to invest in great founders. No one's like Rachel, but yeah, close. There might be people who are somewhat close. And I want to thank the NASDAQ Foundation as a partner that is supporting us in all of this effort to make sure you have the education and the opportunities to really step into that power of wealth and influence as savvy investors. Have a great day, everyone.